Dynamic Routing and the RIP Protocol. Welcome to this training session dedicated to dynamic routing and the RIP protocol. In a modern computer network, routers must be able to automatically find the best paths to transmit data. As networks become very large, with dozens or even hundreds of routers, it becomes practically impossible to configure all routes manually. This is where dynamic routing comes into play. Thanks to protocols such as RIP, routers exchange information with one another in order to automatically learn available paths and adapt to network changes. In this lesson, we will understand how routers discover networks, how they choose the best paths, and how they react when a failure occurs. We will also explore essential concepts such as metrics, hop count, routing loops, and the protection mechanisms used by RIP. By the end of this presentation, you will be able to understand the general operation of dynamic routing and configure a simple RIP protocol on a Cisco router. The problem with static routing. Static routing works well in very small network architectures. In simple topologies with only a few routers, manual configuration is fast, easy, and gives administrators full control over network paths. However, as networks grow larger, static routing quickly becomes difficult to manage. In enterprise environments containing dozens or even hundreds of routers, manually configuring and maintaining routes becomes extremely complex. A single typing mistake can create serious communication problems across the network. Maintenance time also increases dramatically because every topology change requires manual updates on multiple routers. Even worse, static routing cannot automatically react to failures or broken links. If a connection goes down, administrators must manually reconfigure routes before communication can be restored. This is why modern networks rely on dynamic routing protocols. Automation becomes essential to ensure scalability, reliability, and rapid adaptation to network changes. The era of dynamic routing. Dynamic routing completely changes the way modern networks operate. Instead of relying on manual configuration, routers become capable of automatically discovering networks and learning the topology around them. The first step is discovery. Routers detect directly connected networks and identify neighboring routers automatically. Next comes information exchange. Routers continuously share topology information with their neighbors in order to maintain an updated view of the network. Then comes reaction. If a link fails or a router becomes unavailable, the network immediately recalculates alternative paths to maintain connectivity. Finally, optimization. Dynamic routing protocols constantly compute the best available path according to specific metrics such as hop count, bandwidth, or cost. This approach offers major advantages: excellent scalability, automatic adaptation to failures, and intelligent path selection. However, this intelligence also comes with costs. Dynamic routing consumes bandwidth because routers regularly exchange updates, and route calculations require additional processing power. Despite these constraints, dynamic routing has become essential for modern enterprise networks. Now, let's understand an important distinction in computer networks: the difference between a routing protocol and a routed protocol. A routing protocol is like a GPS navigation system. It analyzes the network, exchanges routing information with other routers, and calculates the best path to reach a destination. Protocols such as RIP, OSPF, and BGP belong to this category. However, routing protocols do not transport user data directly. Their role is only to build and maintain the routing table. On the other hand, a routed protocol is like the transport vehicle carrying passengers or goods. Protocols such as IPv4 and IPv6 are responsible for transporting the actual data packets from the source to the destination across the network. In simple terms, routing protocols decide where the data should go, while routed protocols actually carry the data through the network. Both work together continuously to ensure reliable and efficient communication across modern networks. Let's now explore the core principle behind the RIP protocol: the distance vector algorithm. RIP uses a very simple metric called the hop count. A hop represents one router crossed between the source and the destination. In this example, to reach router R3 from R1, the packet must pass through router R2. That means the route has a metric of 2 hops. For RIP, the best path is always the one with the fewest number of routers. Unlike more advanced protocols, RIP does not consider bandwidth, delay, or link quality. It only counts hops. Another important characteristic of RIP is its periodic update mechanism. Every 30 seconds, routers exchange their routing tables with their neighbors to keep the network information updated. This simplicity makes RIP easy to understand and configure, but it also explains why RIP is less efficient in large modern networks. One of the most important limitations of the RIP protocol is the maximum hop count. In RIP, a route is considered valid only if it is reachable within 15 hops or fewer. Each router crossed adds 1 hop to the metric. As soon as the metric reaches 16 hops, RIP considers the destination unreachable. In other words, 16 represents infinity in the RIP protocol. This limitation was designed to prevent routing loops from lasting forever inside the network. Without this protection, packets could circulate endlessly between routers, wasting bandwidth and network resources. Although this mechanism improves stability, it also means that RIP cannot scale efficiently in very large enterprise networks. That is why RIP is mainly used in small or medium-sized network environments. Now let's examine one of the biggest problems in distance vector routing protocols, the routing loop. Step 1. The failure. Router R2 suddenly loses access to network N3 because of a link failure. Step 2. The false information. Before R2 can announce the failure, router R1 sends its regular routing update and claims, "I still know how to reach N3 in 2 hops." R2 mistakenly believes this outdated information and assumes that R1 has a valid path to the destination. Step 3. The infinite loop. R1 and R2 begin sending packets to each other continuously. Each router believes the other one knows the correct path. As a result, the metric keeps increasing. 3 hops, 4 hops, 5 hops, and so on, until RIP finally reaches its maximum value. During this time, packets circulate endlessly inside the network, consuming bandwidth and reducing network performance. This phenomenon is called a routing loop, and it is one of the main reasons why RIP includes several protection mechanisms. Now, let's look at the protection mechanisms that RIP uses to prevent routing loops. The first mechanism is split horizon. Its rule is simple. A router never advertises a route back through the same interface from which it was learned. This prevents false routing information from circulating endlessly between routers. The second mechanism is route poisoning. When a route becomes unreachable, the router immediately advertises it with a metric of 16, which in RIP means infinity. In other words, the route is declared dead instantly so that all neighboring routers stop using it. Finally, we have the hold down timer. When a route becomes unstable or suspicious, the router temporarily ignores new updates about that route. This waiting period allows the network to stabilize and prevents incorrect information from spreading too quickly. Together, these 3 mechanisms help RIP reduce routing loops and improve network stability. Let's now explore how RIP manages the life cycle of a route using different timers. First, the update timer. Every 30 seconds, routers exchange routing information. As long as updates are received normally, the route remains valid. Next comes the invalid timer. If no update is received for 180 seconds, the router assumes the route is no longer reachable and marks it as invalid. After that, the hold down timer begins. During this stabilization period, the router ignores suspicious alternative updates in order to prevent routing loops and incorrect decisions. Finally, the flush timer. After 240 seconds, the failed route is completely removed from the routing table. This process highlights one of RIP's main weaknesses: slow convergence. In some cases, RIP may need up to 4 full minutes to fully forget a failed route. Let's now compare RIP version 1 and RIP version 2. RIP version 1 is the original version of the protocol, but today it is considered obsolete. It is a classless routing protocol, which means it does not transmit subnet mask information in its updates. Because of this limitation, RIP1 cannot correctly support modern network designs using VLSM or discontiguous networks. This leads to poor flexibility and inefficient IP address usage. RIP-v2 was created to solve these problems. Unlike RIP1, it is a classless protocol. It includes the subnet mask with every route advertisement, allowing full support for CIDR and VLSM. RIP-v2 also introduces authentication between routers and uses multicast communication instead of broadcast, making the protocol more efficient and secure. In summary, RIP-v2 is faster, smarter, and far better adapted to modern enterprise networks. Let's now explore one of the most dangerous configuration mistakes in RIP: automatic summarization, also called auto-summary. In the first example, auto-summary is enabled. The router combines several subnetworks, such as 192.168.1.0, 192.168.2.0, and 192.168.3.0 into a single large network, 192.168.0.0/16. This summarization may seem efficient, but it can create serious routing problems. Routers lose visibility of the exact subnetworks, and packets may be sent to the wrong destination, creating what we call routing black holes. In the second example, auto-summary is disabled using the Cisco command no auto-summary. Now, every subnet is advertised individually and precisely. Routers can clearly distinguish each destination network, which improves routing accuracy and network reliability. For modern networks using VLSM and complex addressing schemes, disabling auto-summary is considered an essential best practice. Let's now discover an important optimization and security feature in RIP: the passive interface. In a real network, RIP updates should only be exchanged between routers. There is no benefit in sending routing updates to student computers or end-user devices connected to a local LAN. Doing so wastes bandwidth and may also create security vulnerabilities by exposing routing information to unnecessary devices. To solve this problem, Cisco routers provide the passive interface command. In this example, the command passive interface gigabit Ethernet 0/0 stops RIP updates from being sent through the LAN interface connected to the switch and PCs. However, the router still advertises this network to other routers on the WAN side. This means the network remains reachable while unnecessary RIP traffic is eliminated. The passive interface is therefore both an optimization tool and a security best practice in modern network configurations. Let's now move to the practical configuration of RIP on a Cisco router. The first command is router RIP. This activates the RIP routing process on the router. Next, version 2. This forces the router to use RIP-v2, which supports subnet masks and modern classless routing. Then, no auto-summary. This disables automatic network summarization and ensures that subnetworks are advertised precisely. After that, the network command defines which local networks will participate in the RIP process. In this example, the router advertises the 192.168.1.0 network. Finally, passive interface G0/0. This command prevents RIP updates from being sent through the LAN interface, improving both security and bandwidth efficiency. With only a few commands, we can build a fully functional dynamic routing configuration using RIP version 2 on Cisco iOS. Let's now learn how to read and interpret a routing table entry. At the beginning of the line, we see the letter R. This code indicates that the route was learned dynamically through the RIP protocol. Next, we have the destination network, 192.168.t.0/24. Inside the brackets, the first value is the administrative distance. In this example, it is 120. This represents the trust level of the routing protocol. A lower value means a more trusted route. For example, OSPF has an administrative distance of 110, so it will always be preferred over RIP if both protocols know the same destination. The second value is the metric. Here, the metric equals 2, which means the packet must cross exactly 2 routers to reach the destination network. Then, the expression via 1.1.1.2 indicates the next hop router used to forward the packet. Finally, serial 1/0 shows the outgoing interface used by the router. Understanding routing table entries is essential for network troubleshooting and routing analysis. Let's conclude our study of the RIP protocol by summarizing its strengths and weaknesses. One of RIP's greatest advantages is its simplicity. It is very easy to understand, configure, and troubleshoot, making it an excellent learning protocol for beginners. RIP is also well suited for very small internal networks, where the topology is simple and changes are limited. However, RIP also has important limitations. Its convergence is slow. In some situations, the network may need several minutes to fully recover after a failure. RIP is also limited to a maximum of 15 hops, which makes it unsuitable for large-scale infrastructures. Another weakness is its metric system. RIP only counts the number of routers crossed, without considering bandwidth, delay, or link quality. For these reasons, modern enterprise networks usually prefer more advanced protocols, such as OSPF or BGP. Nevertheless, RIP remains an excellent educational protocol for understanding the fundamental principles of dynamic routing. Thank you for watching this presentation on dynamic routing and the RIP protocol. I hope this video helped you better understand how routing protocols work, how routers exchange information, and how dynamic routing is configured in real networks. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment, and share it with your friends or classmates. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you never miss upcoming tutorials and practical labs. On this channel, we explore dynamic routing, routing tables, Cisco configurations, network troubleshooting, embedded systems, and many other engineering topics. Thank you again for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.